Ladies and gentlemen, the University of South Carolina Center for Teaching Excellence proudly welcomes you to the Fall 2021 Adjunct Faculty Orientation. And now, to host today's orientation, let me introduce you to today's Master of Ceremonies, CTE Director, Augie Grant. Hi, everybody. Uh, Not exactly what you were expecting as an introduction, I'll bet. A lot of people ask me, why do I teach? What do I get out of teaching? And the answer I give is really simple. And that is that I found that every student I've ever encountered knows more than I do about something. And if I can share what I know, I also have the opportunity for them to share what they know. So it becomes not just a throw out information, but it becomes an exchange of information where everybody benefits. Your role, of course, is designing the course, trying to say, here's the information that's going to be presented. Here are the outcomes I want. Here are the things I want people to end with. So I'm going to, along the way, present this information, and I'm also going to have these assignments to help reach an end goal. But along the way, what really helps out is keeping in mind that our students are all adults. One of the things that just drives me crazy is when I'm listening to the radio or watching TV and somebody refers to university students as kids. And it's no, these are all adults. And the more we treat them as adults, the more we can put responsibility on them, the more we can expect them to perform for us. So I want you to keep that in mind. The other thing that's really important, especially this year, is we have to be nimble. We know that COVID has been ravaging parts of the country. We know that there are things that we can control and things we can't control. And I see a lot of my colleagues who are very frustrated because there are things that are beyond their control, things that they want changed. And one of the things we have to focus on as we try to help our students through this uncertainty is being able to focus on these are the things I can control. These are the opportunities I have, and providing a constructive experience for the students so by the end of the term, they have achieved those outcomes that you set out for them to achieve at the beginning of the term. Let's start out with the technology, since the tool we know everyone needs access to is Blackboard. We have one of our Blackboard specialists. Gloria Washington was actually a pioneer at the University of South Carolina, one of the first women working in the Division of Information Technology, coming up and not only setting up technology, helping faculty with technology, but her interest in pedagogy helped her transfer those interests in technology to the Center for Teaching Excellence, where she's one of our instructional designers who works one-on-one with faculty, and again, has one of the highest levels of technology knowledge. So, Gloria, I'm going to turn things over to you to introduce Blackboard. Take it
Hello,
away.
everyone, and welcome. So now I'm going to go ahead and take you into Blackboard. And to access Blackboard, you simply go to blackboard.sc.edu. And so I already have my screen open to save some time. And it will pop on your screen shortly. So Blackboard can be very helpful for you and your students. It is the university-supported learning management system. With Blackboard, you can provide content to your students in a central location. You can communicate with your students quickly. You can provide grades in electronic formats. Students can submit assignments electronically. They can work with various built-in web-based tools like discussions, e-portfolios, wikis, and blogs. So it doesn't matter whether you're teaching online, whether you're teaching face-to-face, Blackboard is definitely a resource for you and your students. And so as soon as you log into Blackboard, you will see your institution page. And so this will provide you quick updates, information, if there were issues with Blackboard, and I'm just going to go down a little. So it provides you different information. When there's updates, you'll see those there. Next on the main menu is going to be, you'll see your name, and this is your profile. And so when you click on your profile, the first thing you can do is add a picture. And so you see this little pencil come up. When you see that throughout your Blackboard environment, you can edit that particular content. So you already added my picture, but you can add a picture. Your activity stream. This will tell you everything that's going on across all of your courses. So you'll see I have some activity going on here. And then you have your courses page. The courses page is going to provide you a list of all of your courses. You will notice that at the top of mine, you will see favorites, and over to the right of some of my classes, you will see this little purple star. And so that's a favorite. So if I go down in my list, I have a lot of favorites. Let's hope I can hit one that I don't have a favorite. I had to go to a different page, but basically you have a lot of you can choose what favorites. And when you select a course as a favorite, it's going to appear first in your course list. Over here, you'll see the 3 dots, and you can make your course private here. And it's best practice that while you're working on your actual class in Blackboard, best practice is to make it private, so that students don't see what you're doing as you're working in it. And then when you are finished working in it, you can make it available to your students. So when students go to Blackboard, they'll see the name of the course, so they'll know that they are enrolled in that class, but they cannot access the actual class site. This is what is called list view. There's also grid view, which I'm going to click here, and you'll notice that it shows you pictures. And by default, Blackboard is just going to pop a picture up there. But if you add a picture, or banner, it will put that picture in place of the default picture as well. So I like the list view, so I'm going to go back there. And if you want to go to a specific class, so let's say you're teaching English this fall and you just want to quickly get to that class because you have a lot of classes, you can type in any portion of that course ID, and it'll pop up in the list. Or if you know the actual full course ID, you can type that in as well. So if you are teaching online, an instructional designer at CTE can provide you with a Blackboard template. So let's take a look at a class that uses a template so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. So the master course template is a course structure that is designed with student-centered learning in mind, and is organized to make it simple and easy for students and you to navigate in your course. It was created using Quality Matters higher education course design rubric standards, which UofSC adopted in 2013. Many of the links found on the course menu here contain boilerplate language that you can modify to fit your actual course. So please note that many of the items contained in this template are items that are recommended through QM standards and are the syllabus section requirements in our syllabus templates. So you'll notice that as soon as I went to this English class, the first thing that popped up was a welcome to English. So in welcome announcements, so announcements popped up. So it is best practice, definitely in your online classes, to provide a welcome announcement. You can also email that welcome announcement out to students prior to the start of classes, and giving them information like what are the dates for the course, how will your modules run, when are assignments due, and just some basic information. And then you'll notice that this course template is broken into 3 major sections: about your course, course content, and then important links and tools. So one method of designing your course in Blackboard is to organize your content into folders and to link all required content for a module in this one particular area. So this helps students find content easier, and it helps them to progress through the actual course to stay on track. The idea is that they can complete everything they need to do in the module before moving on to the next module. The main purpose of organizing your course into modules is to reduce cognitive load by chunking your content into smaller and more manageable sections. So the course modules content area contains folders, and normally folders for each week that we normally have in a semester, module 1 through 16 for the upcoming fall semester. And so you'll notice that each module has a topic. So you want to let students identify what's going to be in that particular folder. So I'm going to go ahead and let me click on module 2. First thing you'll notice that students are welcomed to module 2 with a module overview. Then there's learning objectives and a to-do list. And within each module, you will notice that students can go to the discussion board that they need to complete. The instructor has put in what readings they need to do. There's a peer review study partners group activity that they need to do, and then there's a next step. What do I do after this particular module? So each module will contain the same structure, your course overview. That's just a brief introduction to that specific module. Your learning objectives. These are measurable learning objectives, starting with an action verb. And they link back to the course learning outcomes. And you'll notice here that the instructor put the aligned course outcome in parentheses, so students can relate that back to the original course outcomes. And then here's a list of what the student needs to do. And this instructor put due dates in their to-do list, letting them know exactly what to read. They need to do a first draft for their remembered event essay. They have to post that to their peer review study partner. So everything the student needs goes here. And I do want to point out, you will notice that next to Module 2 Introduction Transcript, you'll notice that this is a little orange color. But next to how to participate in discussion board, you'll notice that this is green. And this is the Blackboard Ally accessibility score. So as you post content like your syllabus, any type of documents that you post, whether it's a PDF document, maybe it's a Word document, Excel spreadsheet, Blackboard Ally is going to generate what it calls an accessibility score to let you know that your document is either perfect, accessible, or your document needs some work. So this is accessibility score medium. And I'm going to go ahead and click on this real quick because I think this is real important. Even in a face-to-face class, if you should, best practice is to post your syllabus in the actual Blackboard environment. Some instructors may still print their syllabus out, give it to the students, or tell the students to print it and bring a copy to class. And definitely in the online environment, you'll be providing all your content digitally, so you want to make sure that it is accessible. So once I click on this accessibility score, you're going to see the page is loading, but you will see here is a percentage. So it's going to tell you a percentage. And then it tells me up here, page 1 of 9, and it tells me over here what the issue is. So the document does not have headings. So this can simply be corrected by just making this Module 2 Introduction a heading 1. And you'll notice that if you don't have the actual document anymore on your computer, you can always download the document. You can make the change in Microsoft Word, since this is a Word document, and then you can upload it, and then Blackboard will run the accessibility checker again, and this percentage will change.
So Gloria, let me ask you a question along the way. So it looks
Yes.
like Blackboard is really, really powerful with a lot of different things, but instructors don't have to do these, especially if they're teaching face-to-face. Is that right?
Well, if the content is put into Blackboard online, it is recommended that those documents be accessible.
Okay,
So
so we've got the accessibility tools to make sure that anything that you want to make sure is accessible, if you put it through Blackboard, then Blackboard will tell you how accessible the content is.
yes.
Good, good. All right. Again, I want to make sure we have the context because there's so many. We spend courses, we spend weeks and months teaching people the ins and outs of Blackboards, but this is a great example of one of the real useful tools you have. What are some of the other things?
Another thing is student preview. And this is for those, if you do teach an online class, I mean, you can even do it in face-to-face, but it's definitely useful in an online class. When I click student preview, what happens is I get to see this course from a student view. So I can go in and I can submit as an instructor, I can do a discussion board, I can do an assignment, I can submit that assignment, and you can test to make sure that your assignment submissions are working correctly and all your content is working correctly. And I'm going to go ahead and quickly exit this because I just wanted to show you this. Delete the preview user. You can delete the user or you can keep it. If you want to grade your activity in the course just to check to make sure your grade center is appropriately set up, then I recommend keep the preview user. You can always go back in and delete it. So I'm going to go ahead and delete, and I'm going to go ahead and get out of this class because I want to show you exactly how to create some things in Blackboard. So I am going to go to a sample course that I'm going to use. And you'll notice that in this class, I've kind of changed the course menu around a little. It still starts with homepage, but here's a course content, assignments, quizzes and tests, discussions. So if you are teaching a face-to-face class, I strongly recommend that you do create some assignments and have those students submit those assignments through Blackboard. For example, English class, you may require them to type an essay. So if you require them to type an essay, instead of bringing you a printed copy, which they can, but you can also have them submit the assignment through Blackboard. And once you create an assignment in Blackboard, it creates a grade center column, so the column is already there for you. So here I'm going to go to course content. And in course content, let's say you want to add your syllabus. You would go to build content, and then you would add either an item or a file. So both of these options will allow you to upload your actual syllabus. So I'm going to click on item, and then you would give that item a name. Once you name it, you can type some text here which will be shown to the students. And then here is where you will attach your file. So you would just go in, you can browse your local computer, find the document to attach the document. You can browse your content collection. You can browse your cloud service. So I'm going to hit browse content collection. Let me see if I have anything in there.
So as you're finding it, this looks like a great way to get content out to everybody in class, but also a great way when students are submitting their work or you're giving them graded material. It keeps everything secure.
Exactly. So you'll see once I added this syllabus, couple of things here. You will be seeing these options throughout different things in Blackboard, like permit users to view this content. Yes, I definitely do. If you add a test, you may not want students to see that right away, so you can say no. You can select to restrict when you want students to see this. But since it is a syllabus, I want students to be able to access this throughout the entire class. So if they are on the beach for spring break, they don't have an excuse that they didn't know what was due coming up after break, or if they took out and left school before the actual break, they can always go back and they can view the syllabus online. And so you'll notice that once I added the syllabus, now it is in my course content area. So this can be if you do PowerPoint presentations, if you teach a math class and you want to provide some extra resources. I mean, you can add documents. It could be Word, Excel. You can add videos. You can connect to YouTube. You can provide them with a link to maybe a Google document. So your course content can be basically anything.
And can you find out whether someone in your class has looked at the document?
Now, you can find out if students have looked at the document and I'm going to go here to this down arrow and click edit. And there was an option, track number of views. I can say, yes, I want to track the number of views here. And then there's a report feature in Blackboard that will allow you to choose items within Blackboard and you can see who actually accessed those items. And so down here in your control panel, you will see you have your course tools. This is where your tests are, your discussion boards, wiki blogs, evaluation, course reports, and this is where you can go to see those reports, to see who looked at the actual syllabus. One thing is that if you use folders, sometimes depending upon how you create your content in Blackboard, you may only be able to see the folder level and not the actual item. So that's why track views come into handy, because that report will help you kind of narrow down which content students viewed. And so next, assignments. So like I said, if you had an English class, the students need to turn in an essay. And you want them to turn it in online, but you also want a printed copy. Maybe you want to do some peer reviews in the classroom and you want them to switch copy paper. You can do that as well. But under assessments, you see assignment. And so you would give the assignment a name. And I'm just going to call this essay 1. Here you can give some instructions. If you already have it in your syllabus, you can copy and paste it from your syllabus into this area. And so I'm just going to type instructions, go here. If you have, like, they need to have 750 words, you can put that there as well. If you have a document that you need them to look at first before they actually do that essay, so let's say your instructions are in a Word document, again, you can attach a file here. You can add a due date for that assignment. When you add a due date for the assignment, Blackboard is going to put it on the calendar for that date that you set it for. You can also tell it a specific time. Is it due at midnight? Is it due at 1:30 p.m. in the afternoon? So you can set that. And then here you have to give it points possible. So depending upon how you want to set your points, I like 100, so I normally use 100. I'm not going to talk about rubrics, but you can add a rubric for your assignments. And rubrics is one best practice for using grading criteria in your classes, regardless of the instructional method or the delivery mode that you're using. Submission details. I'm going to go ahead and click that. You'll notice that you can do an individual assignment, group assignment, and a portfolio assignment. So let's say this is an individual. You can determine how many times you want them to submit this particular assignment. Let's say they have to submit an essay draft 1, and maybe they'll do a final essay. If you want them to submit it to the same location, you can just change this to 2 attempts. Or you can have one grade center column for the draft and one for the final essay. check submissions for plagiarism. You can click this option, and depending upon whether you want students to see the Safe Assign report, you can check that. Exclude submissions from the Institution and Global References database. If it is a draft submission, I recommend excluding it, because what's going to happen is when they submit their final, it's going to be like they plagiarized themselves. So I'm just going to check submission, since this will be the final essay. Make the assignment available. You can limit availability here, when they can see it and how long you want it displayed. And again, you can track number of views. And I'm just going to hit submit. And so that is our first assignment. And so if I go to the Grade Center right now, so I'm just going to click on Grade Center, Full Grade Center. Here are some columns that I didn't hide yet. Normally the student ID, it doesn't show, but username, the last time, and this is my preview user, so the last time the student came into the class, the student is available, which means I'm online. And then here's that essay 1. So every time you create an assignment, Blackboard creates a Grade Center column automatically, so you don't have to go in and grade that. You don't have to create a column. Okay, so let's say I want to create a quiz. So I'm going to go to quiz, and this is just a content area. And so under assessments, I would go to test. And then you'll notice I already have some tests here, but if I want to create a new one, I would just simply create. I'm going to name the quiz. You can give a description here. You can give instructions here, but for time, I'm not going to type anything, and I'm going to hit submit. And then you'll notice that it automatically takes you to the test canvas. So I'm just going to create one quick question. So create question. You'll notice you can have essay questions, file response, fill in multiple blanks, fill in the blank, true and false. So I'm just going to create a quick true and false. You're going to type in your question text. Okay, and then here you can decide if you want it vertical or horizontal. Answer is true, but if it was a false answer, you would choose it there. You can give feedback, correct feedback, incorrect feedback. And I'm going through this quickly. And instructor notes are notes for yourself. So if this question came from from chapter 5, you can put a note in here for chapter 5 here. Or let me go back up. And if you're building quizzes for question title, every quiz that is related to chapter 5, I could put chapter 5 for all of these questions, so that way I know. So let's say if my quiz was chapter 5 through 7, then I could put whatever chapter it is for whichever question. So when I view the questions, I know which chapter they came from. So just in case a student wants to know more information, well, why was this question true or false? Why was this, why was A the multiple choice response? You can quickly go back and reference that as well. So I'm going to hit submit. My question appears here, correct answer. Points, I can change my points value here, and I can change that for each question. Maybe some questions will be 10 points, some will be 5 points. If all of the questions are going to be 5 points, then I could put 5 points here, and then I could just say update, and all of my questions, whether I have 50 questions or 100 questions, will become 5 points. Okay, so I'm just going to click OK here, and now you'll see quiz 1 is highlighted for me because now I need to make it available to students. I'm going to hit submit. Content link description. This is the description that the students will see before they go into the actual test. One open test and new window, you keep that default. You can say yes, make it available. If you happen to set it up and send it out right before it's due, you can also send out an announcement for the test. If I say yes now, it's going to go out to students before the test actually happens. Multiple attempts, I can choose unlimited attempts. I can give them 2 attempts, 3 attempts, 4 attempts. Forced completion means that once they enter the quiz, they must complete the quiz. I can set my timer. I can give them 20 minutes, 15 minutes, 10 minutes. Display after, display until. If I choose yes, make it available, but I only want to show it on certain dates, I can do that as well. If I have a student that needs to make up this online quiz, I can set a password and give that password to that student. If I have a student who needs more time on tests, I can add that particular student and I can give them more time. You can also put in a due date, and by default after submission they'll see their score per question. You can choose any of these options. Normally I recommend just letting them see their score once everybody has taken the quiz. Then you can go back and change any of these options.
So
Test
Gloria,
presentation.
Gloria, a second ago, you also mentioned something about sending a note to students. I want to make
Yes.
sure that everyone knows that one of the real simple things you can do, you can actually send a message to the entire class. How do you do that?
Yes, you can. So let me go ahead and hit this. So in your course tools, if you go down, there's a send email option. Send email to all students, all users. That include if you have GAs in your class as well, all students. You can choose this. You can select specific instructor, students. So I'm just going to go all students, and it would send to all students in that class. If you have 25, if you have 100, you would give it a subject, type your message. I like to check this box so that I get a return receipt so I know the email got sent. You can attach a file and then you will hit the submit button. Okay, so let's see what, oh, I got out. I clicked the wrong X. So
Okay,
this X up, go ahead.
yeah, one more question while you're in that area. Can we also use Blackboard to get to know our students?
And yes, you can. Couple of ways you can do that. Users and groups will show you all of your users, and it'll give you a list of your users. If this was well, you can do it in a face-to-face class too, but let's say you could use discussions to get to know your students. You can use some outside tools like Flipgrid. You also have a profiles feature as well. And let me see if photo roster, sorry. When you click on photo roster, you will see your students' pictures.
So if I have
And
a
so I
class
don't
of
have,
20 students, I can just go in Blackboard and I can see them, and that will help me get to know their names. Or if somebody said something and I said, what was that student's name? You can just go back and find the student.
yes, you can put a face with a name.
All right. One more minute left in your section.
Okay.
What are the important things you haven't said yet that you want to wrap up with?
Okay, one thing I want to wrap up with is that you can add anything to this course menu that you like. So when you click on this plus, when you point to the plus here, you can add a content area. You can add a link to a tool, course link. So I'm just going to hit content area. And let's say you wanted to type something like about the instructor. Available to students, you will hit submit. Notice it goes to the bottom and you can move it wherever you want to move it. The other thing is adding an announcement. So I'm going to click here, and that is a tool link. So I'm going to type announcement here, announcements, and then I can choose announcements available to students, submit, and then I'm going to move it to the very top so that it becomes my landing page. And that's your quick overview of Blackboard.
The big thing I'd like to leave you with as we talk about Blackboard is the idea that This is a real powerful technology tool. You don't have to use it at all if you don't want to, but as you're trying to communicate with students, as you're trying to find secure ways to report grades or receive assignments, it's a great way to do it. So Blackboard is one of those things that helps us teach. But I think the thing that really helps us teaching most is understanding how people learn. And to help us get a handle on that, I've got one of our top educators at the University of South Carolina. Nate Carnes is the Associate Director of the Center for Teaching Excellence. He's also an Associate Professor in the College of Education who had a distinguished career as a school teacher before he earned his doctorate and started teaching at the university level. So nobody I know has been teaching longer than Nate and knows more about helping students learn. So Nate, I will turn things over to you.
Okay, Augie, thank you very much. So we're going to go ahead and get started here with a part that I was going to say tasked with, but it's not really a task, it's a joy. Love teaching. Apparently teaching loves me. I want to direct your question, your attention to the slide that is before us. I'm going to talk about pedagogy just a little bit, just a very broad brush stroke. And then I'm also charged to put us into breakout groups, which is another feature of Blackboard Collaborate Ultra. And as I do, I have a task for you that's going to put us into groups. Okay, so a number of us we have a diverse group. We have some, this is the first go. Fine, welcome to the profession. So excited for you. And we have some that have accumulated a appreciable amount of experience. You got it under your belt, good. You'll find much of that will transfer over into your experiences this semester or whenever you are teaching a course. And then we have some aged individuals. So that helps me out. I won't go into pedagogy too much. So when I make mention of the word pedagogy, what does that mean to you? Please go ahead and put that in the chat. We have one response so far, your beliefs about teaching, ways of teaching, okay, philosophy, methodology. There's a husband and wife team, Wong and Wong, Doctors Wong and Wong. They have written a book and have updated it several times. And one of the things they emphasize is that teaching, we should not teach the cover material. Because they said, no wonder students don't see it because we cover the material. Our job should be to uncover the material and reveal some of the richness that's in the knowledge that we are presenting. So I am talking to a large experienced group, and notice on this screen it says, what does pedagogy look like? There are 4 scenarios on this slide. And what I would like for you to do is look closely at them for a moment, and I want you to prepare to discuss what stands out to you the most, what grabs your attention the most when you look across these scenarios. All right, so here we go into our breakout groups. Does anybody care to share one thing that popped out of your group?
The bottom right-hand photograph seems to show a professor lecturing to a large group of students, the so-called sage on the stage, and that is certainly one method that is traditional, and it works. It's harder to get interaction with the students, and at least in my experience, it's harder to get them to speak up in a large group like that, especially if some of them are freshmen. 2 small photographs above that professor on the stage are interesting because one is at a blackboard and is literally reaching out to the students as though trying to pull in answers to open up the conversation. So interacting very vigorously with the students. The 2 girls the 2 women on the right are obviously or I think one standing pointing is the professor and the other sitting is the student. And it's hard to tell exactly what they're doing, but they're certainly interacting closely over some aspect of the teaching. And then, as one of the people in my group pointed out, the large photograph on the left, the teacher seems to be interacting with small groups to which she has assigned projects or something like that, because they're busy scribbling away on paper while she's smiling over them, talking to them and seeing what they're doing. So I think these are different methods of teaching and getting the students to interact and engage with the work.
Yes, great, great synopsis. Let me just move to say that was a nice summary. What we have found in our research over the years is that active learning promotes learning the best or to the highest degree, but that also depends on what your expectations are and what your learning goals are, and how much time that you have. There are lots of factors that feed into all of this. So this isn't to preach one type of teaching, because one, our students are so diverse, just like we are diverse as a group. The content that we teach is also different, and the amount of time we have to deliver the content varies. The students who come into our classroom also varies. So if there's one thing that cuts across all of the photographs, is diversity. So with that, I am going to move quickly on to my next slide here. What I want to emphasize here is knowledge is power. You have to know who you are, and we did a little bit of that by getting into the small breakout groups, sharing who we are as adjunct faculty, and a little bit about our experiences. We had the hand raise about the amount of experience that we've had, and some of us have been around for a very long time in the teaching profession. Students are going to be very important. I just want to say just something brief about that. We're not only going to have students from different ethnicities, but we'll have students from different cultures, different backgrounds. They will bring a multitude of experiences, knowledge, even if it's inconsistent with the what the canon says. They still bring in knowledge. And Augie touched briefly on this. I really like what he said, because we have long moved past that lock-in perspective of students come with this blank slate and we just imprint upon them throughout the course. No, they come in with something on their brains, even if it doesn't agree with what we're going to teach. And then that will get into unlearning to help them to learn, that kind of thing. All that is lumped into the last connecting part of pedagogy. So I like the definitions that were given earlier about pedagogy. And we have to think in terms of, a lot of the tension sometimes in some conversations is teaching an art, or is it a skill? And then we have other variations where it's art and skill, and the balance varies. We have to acquaint ourselves to the pedagogy that we're using in light of the students and the self going backwards. So with that, I want to leave you with a quote from a Chinese warlord by the name of Sun Tzu. 3rd century Chinese warlord, was very successful in almost all of his campaigns to conquer or to defend. Before I go into the last slide, I want you to think in terms of what does this quote have to do with me teaching this semester or next semester, whenever I'm going to teach. Knowing that the students are not our enemies. Okay, so I've given you some time to think. Now I'm going to go to the next slide. I'm going to give you the Carnes interpretation, which the world does not turn on. It's just my interpretation of years of teaching. Okay, here we go. And then you can see how your thoughts compare to my thoughts. Okay, so I'm hoping that this brief presentation helps you start to think and mull over what you are planning to do in your course when you're working with your students. The bottom line is you have to know yourself, you have to know something about them, and you have to know some pedagogy or some way of delivering the information. Thank you for the compliment. Because all this will make a difference. Now, I've tried to, in just a short period of time, was to present a positive example of how you might teach. I did a real quick sort of thing where I got to know something about you with the hand raising, not much of you individually, but a little bit about that. Provides you some time to look at a stimulus. And also there was time for some brief interaction. And I hope you noticed that in the last couple slides, which is so hard for us to do at times, is to be quiet. When we stop talking and when we pause, Augie has a great example that he does when he pauses, which is like grabbing the student's attention. But also when we pause, we give time for students to marinate on what we just said, or at least give some kind of thought. It can interrupt some daydreaming also, which is how he uses silence so beautifully. But when we pause, we give some space for thinking. And that's what I would like for us to keep in mind. So hopefully I've said something to get your semester started off. Now I do want to say very quickly, and then I have to introduce Mr. Chaplin. This is like my last few seconds. We're back to that slide again. What I want to point out, right now we have Gloria Washington, we have Casey Carroll with us. They're on the instructional design team of CTE. Okay, so they can help and provide some advice with helping you get to know yourself as an instructor. CTE also has programs and activities to help you think about getting to know your students. And yes, Casey, I'm encouraging them to talk to you. As far as pedagogy is concerned, our instructional design team can help you with that, as well as our toolboxes that are online. And there are lots of resources that are available to you. Call out to us. There's a portal that you can access. And I put this here for the question or comments. We won't have time really for questions or comments, but I do want to point out, go to this email, check the email. This is the portal which you can get to all of us. You can get to Augie, you can get to Gloria, you can get to Casey, you can get to other instructional designers, you can get to me. We will be checking this, and we are interested and excited about helping you. So I'm going to introduce my colleague, Paul Chaplin, who is also in the Department of Instruction and Teacher Education, which resides in the College of Education. Paul has too long of a history for me to share right now because it's extensive. He's been working 20 years just here at the university, but started out as an adjunct instructor. I'll turn it over to him. Anything else he wants to say about himself, he will tell you. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you very much for that introduction, Nate, and I'm very, very happy to be with everyone today. And when I was asked to draw a list of some possible tips that I could share with individuals, I just began to jot some things down. So these are not necessarily any hierarchical order or order of importance, but some of it is going to reflect on what we've already heard today. Number one, we always want to make sure that there is a clarity of expectations that is addressed numerous times and in different formats for our students. Again, Gloria Washington has unpacked Blackboard for us. It is a phenomenal tool to use with that. Not only can you have your syllabus there, which outlines those expectations and due dates, you can post emails, the reminders to constantly keep your students aware of what is due when and the requirements for that. Every now and then you can run into some degree of tension when you have a student who has a fairly high sense of agency about themselves, their learning, and the learning that's taking place in the course that you might be working with them on. One of the things that I've always wanted to do in this situation is, number one, to acknowledge their agency and let them know that I appreciate their concern that they have for their performance and how well they're doing in that. But I also have to counter that with the fact that you and I have our own sense of agency because we are representatives of the University of South Carolina and the appropriate program of study in which this course might be taught in. So we have the dispositions of integrity and justice that we also have to ostensibly adhere to in working with these adult learners. We want to maintain a high degree of consistency in our students' expectations and, of course, in ourselves. One of the ways to make sure that that is always very clear and out front is the use of rubrics. And again, those rubrics can also be posted in your Blackboard so that students have access to those and fully understand what those requirements are. When time itself has permitted me to do it, I have had students work with me on designing some rubrics for the course that we're doing. One of the things that we look for in this high degree of consistency is timeliness. I know that I work with students that when I get an email, I let them know that I'm going to respond within 24 hours for an email. I also am one of those brave guys. I provide my students with an access to my cell phone number so that they can text message me, because quite often that is one of the easiest ways for me to get a message from a student in a very timely manner. Say they're going to be coming to a class late. Instead of sending me an email, they can send me a text message, and so that I can be aware of how that's happening. Assignments, I'm typically working with 100 plus students. So I let them know that, if I can get an assignment back to them within a 7-day, 1-week time period, that's great for me. But this would vary very differently between the number of students that you happen to be working with and the number of assignments that are being created in the course that you happen to be teaching. We don't have to know the answer to everything. It's perfectly all right. I've found that it didn't matter whether I was working with 7 or 8-year-olds or 18 to 22 years olds, that some of the most empowering words I can say is, I don't know. But, I can surely be the person who works to help you find out the answer to those questions that we do not know. And hopefully I can forward that question on to someone who does have that information. I'd like to remind my students that I can help them best with issues that they might be facing, looking at a social, emotional, or a health level, if they have access to resources that are available for them on campus. It then creates an open line that I can use to better meet their needs if they are already registered with those sites on campus that can help them along with that. Also, I'd like to recognize first and foremost that my students are human beings before they're students. They are adults. Adults, unfortunately, have to face life head on, just like you and I have to do. So I want to remind myself all the time that they are humans first and learners second. Since we're working face-to-face settings this semester, hopefully we're going to stay that way. What's very important for me is the essence of building that classroom community. I want my students to see not me as the individual who is the source of all learning and knowledge, but I want them to see themselves as resources. And again, this is where Blackboard can come in very, very useful in creating group discussions and small group work that can be done. Those are probably the biggest sharings that I have for you today. I've been doing this for 46 years now. No, that's not what caused me to have to wear this collar. This collar is a result of just life in general. Saying one of Nate's sayings, and that is, teaching has been good to me.
Paul, I appreciate it. Again, great input. One last question for you. With all the technological changes that we've had that have come up over the past decade or so, does it really change the heart of what you teach, or where is the heart of your teaching?
It does not change the heart of what I teach. I know like many of you, have had to enter into the virtual world of teaching, kicking and screaming, because it was not the method that I choose to use. But one of the things that I have discovered, Augie, is that I can, even in that virtual setting, I can create a safe place where learners can be themselves and can learn in a way that is the best for them to learn. So I use that virtual world just as well as I do the face-to-face world, and I would hope that we can all learn how to do that, because I don't think this is going to go away anytime soon. I think it is a format that we're going to find ourselves, if not having to use by choice, but as a way of communicating with one another.
Well, there's no question that we're certainly able to expand what the definition of a classroom is now, and where our students are. So, Paul, I appreciate the input. Nate, Gloria, we've come now to the point where you can ask any question, and I have a little sign I put on the wall of my office that says, "Any question is fair." And as you're thinking of questions and putting them in, a couple quick reminders. First, and this is especially important for adjuncts, do not try to teach your students everything you know in one term. It's not possible. We use something called backwards design a lot, where we start with, here are the things, here are the outcomes we want for this course. And then we make sure that we create lectures that cover those outcomes, that we create assignments that give students time to practice it. But in order to have all the knowledge you have, a student's going to have to go through the whole life experience that you've gone through. Certainly not possible in one term. So, and sometimes we get frustrated because we try to do too much. So if we can focus and say, here's what I want my students to get out of this class, it'll be a much better experience, not just for you, but a much better experience for your students. What's the best way to handle attendance for in-person courses this semester given COVID? Some teachers allow 2 to 3 missed classes before deducting grade points. Will that be unfair this upcoming semester? This is a very individualized thing. The Faculty Senate has come up with a new attendance policy that in some ways is more forgiving, because it acknowledges that there are types of excused absences students have, but it reduces the number of unexcused absences. My advice is start out by giving the expectation that students will attend, but I would be a little more forgiving than usual. Again, keeping the focus on the outcome. How do you engage students while wearing a mask that you find effective? And again, Nate might want to chime in here. I use it by literally walking around the front of the class. I teach live class face-to-face and, with the mask. And I find that some of what I used to emote with the mask, I can emote with my hands. So that's another way you can do that. The other thing that you can do, and major thing that engages students, is pulling information out of them. So it's not so much the mask that's the barrier, it's giving them a chance to talk to you. And whether they're talking to you or they're talking on a discussion board or using a Padlet, you have all kinds of ways, but think about having the students give some reaction and you being able to react to that. Taya wants to know, for live class sessions, how do we record classes to put on Blackboard for later viewing? Almost every classroom on campus now has a camera, and there is a built into Blackboard under your course is the Collaborate tool. So what you have to do is open Blackboard Collaborate in the computer that's in the front of the classroom. Once you open Blackboard, there's a little button for Collaborate, and there'll be another button to start recording the session. It's easy to practice. You can contact our team at CTE and we can talk you through it. The e-learning team will also talk you through it. But that's one. My suggestion is find someone to come with you at your first class to show you the buttons to push. And that's the easiest way to do that. By the way, when you record a class in Blackboard Collaborate, it automatically, the recording is automatically on your Blackboard page. So you have the opportunity there to make it available to anyone. You don't have to do that though. One of the big opportunities we have this term, we know if the students are masked and vaccinated, we have a very, very safe environment. We're presuming that you are also going to be vaccinated. We know that the university is not requiring you to wear a face covering. It is strongly encouraged because, again, if you're vaxxed and masked, it's the safest way to teach the class. And that's a #1 goal. We want to keep people safe. We're not bringing anybody on campus to get sick. But we also know that from following students, both fall term and spring term, that they did contact tracing on any student who was infected and didn't have any cases where students were infected in the classroom. The places where students ran into trouble were parties or bars. That was again, using the contact tracing, the places they were most likely to be infected. So we have a very safe environment. I trust all of you are vaccinated. If not, the University Health Center has free vaccines available. Every department has face masks available. So almost everything you want in order to help make yourself safe is there. So, and I would go another step. Remember, your students have as much anxiety as we have, in some ways more, but they're also much more malleable. They're actually more able to learn. If you come into your course with enthusiasm, if you're excited about what you're sharing with them, give them a chance to be excited and to share back with you. That's the best environment for learning. At times, COVID can actually give us a teachable moment. I happen to teach media management, and being able to talk about the impact on media organizations helped me show students, here's how these organizations work. Here's how the structure works. Here's how the personnel are managed, but also here's how the finances work. I was able to pull lessons out of the experience they were seeing, or some of the things that they were seeing, for example, watching TV or in the movies, that apply. So consider that every moment that can be a frustration can also present a teachable moment. And again, being able to interact with your students, to give them a chance to tell you what they're getting from what you're saying, or ask questions. I'd appreciate it if you give us your feedback. Again, one of our goals in CTE, we are here to support your work. So as Nate said, cte@sc.edu, send us questions, send us challenges. Remember, the big difference in teaching today versus when I started, probably about the time Paul started, I started in '83, the expectation then was, here's a book, there's the room, go teach. Today, you are surrounded by a group of support people. Our only goal is to help you do a better job, because we want these students to get the best education they can, so they will graduate, get really good jobs, pay more taxes, and we will all get raises. That's very, very simple summary. All right, we're at exactly 7 o'clock. I promised I would end on time. Again, if anyone has questions, I will hang around for a couple minutes, but I thank you all very much for attending. I appreciate your devotion. I appreciate what you're doing to make the University of South Carolina a better place. It's a challenging time, but thanks to you being part of the team, our students are going to get a better education. And on behalf of the administration, I want to express my appreciation. So thank you very much. Please let us know how we can help you. Please stay safe yourself. Vaxxed and maxed. All right.